Gnarly, dude. So, with this clip, I want to talk about hippies, yippies, and yuppies. First, we have to get the definitions right. Hippies, you could say they came in the 60s. Most people say they're just degenerates who just happen to have Marxist and anarchist type beliefs on the side. Their first priority was free sex, drugs, and bludgeoning of the government, or bludgeoning of society. Now, they were mostly of European ancestry or Anglo-Saxon, but they had a global agenda. The peace and love and whatever was a global agenda. So we say they're hippies. Very unconventional in relation to the time, for the norms of society. But on top of that, we also have the yippies. Yippies and hippies. Some people say, well, what's the difference? The difference was that yippies were hardcore Marxists and anarchists who just happened to be degenerates on the side. Yippies were mostly Jewish. And what yippie actually stands for is the Youth International Party. They too had a global outlook, a global agenda. So hippies were just degenerates, hardcore degenerates, who just happen to have these Marxist anarchist beliefs. Whereas yippies were hardcore Marxists and anarchists who just happened to practice degeneracy on the side. Now, when you look at it, overall picture, what we are seeing with these two groups, peace, is the combination of the Jews, especially the Ashkenazi Jews, and what we would call the children of the upper class. You should remember that those who were hippies or yippies were born either during the later stages of World War II or immediately afterwards, but we could say 1950 onwards. And so they would have been about in their teens, let's say 18 to 20. And we use 1966 as the point where all this came into the open. With this we are seeing the children of the upper class and the Jews combined. So you had degeneracy and you had a good deal of Marxism. So you could say this is where the foundation of what we know as the Green Party today comes from. And indeed, this is also on a global basis. So these things were usually characterized as rebellious youth piece. But when you look at the hippies and the yippies, what we were seeing was two movements serving, well, more or less became one cause, but looking at it in a Marxist type way, generally, if you look at a Marxist anarchist green demonstration, you'll have a handful of people marshalling the mob. The people in the mob, they're expendable, it doesn't matter. So what we are seeing was the children of the upper class, the people who came into adulthood, say between 1930 to 1950, making their impact on a global basis. They looked at their parents and decided that these things had to be done. Remember that the upper class, whether it be just white society in general, or the Jews, hold Marxism, or some variant of it, as their core ideology, indeed their religion. So the Vietnam War came along, the children who became the hippies and yippies had been indoctrinated, and the Vietnam War was something they saw as an attack upon the society which they supposedly showed allegiance to, but not American society or any other Western society. It was on the Communist Society of Vietnam, and indeed any other society which was ruled by communism or a variant of it. And the hippies and yippies, with yippies you got Abby, what's his name now? Abby Hoffman. You also had Jerry Rubin. They were yippies, not hippies, even though they might have given a similar appearance. And when you look at Abby Hoffman, he was a youth leader, even though he was in his 30s when he was doing this all. So this was subversion. And was it subversion against? It was against the predominant society of the 1960s, which was middle class and lower, but the middle class was actually starting to go up a bit, and the upper class did not like that. So you got this degenerate, destructive, nihilistic movement which came into it. People who did not want to see others go up the ladder, so to speak. So when you look at it, the Vietnam War was conducted within the societies of the West. And we see some of the things from that today. We've got the re-imaging of God. Now, this goes to the Jews and to the elites, because we see, the re-imaging of Jesus as expounded in the Urantia book, which says, well, Jesus wasn't really Jesus. He was Michael of Nebadon, and he's going to come back as what? Try this. Lord Sananda, or the Maitreya. This is what they believe. And you got the Jews who say, well, what God is that when we die as Jews, our souls go up to heaven and they become part of God. So like a drop in the water, just keep adding the drops, and then the glass is full, and that is your God. It's a combination. So this was a period, the 1960s, where we saw some very anti-Abrahamic beliefs materialise. Also, during the 60s, we also saw the incorporation of Hinduism into mainstream society. And we can see how things have been watered down. So, the Maitreya, Lord Sananda, some say, oh, it's just New Age stuff, but the New Age has been incorporated into the society we have today. This is an important point. When you look at, let's say you want to clean up society today, who should you go against? Okay, who are the people being targeted within Western societies today? The elderly. The reason being that those who are actually targeting them are the hippies and yippies of the 60s. This is a war that's restarted all over again. As far as the hippies and yippies were concerned, this war was always going to be finished. It's going to be finished by them, and they were going to win. So now you see elderly people being dispossessed. The government trying to take their houses for refugees, which was another big thing of the hippies. Just because a hippie gets a haircut and puts on a suit does not mean the ideology has changed. And we see this evidently today with the likes of their children who became the yuppies. And the yuppies were driven by greed and power. Now, in the 60s we had like the free love, promiscuity, and contraception and so on. And some people say, well, isn't this just a byproduct? No, not really. The Urantia book emphasizes that if a man marries a woman, then they cannot be adulterous, because the children of that union, wedding, marriage, should be all related and stuff like that. Yeah, sure, that's good. But for recreational purposes, unless the sex occurs within the marriage, then it is quite permissible to sleep with other people, provided they are of the same sex. So gay sex ahoy. What do we got now? So when you look at it, there is a spiritual motivation behind the period of the 60s, but most of the people involved in it did not realise it. It was just go with the flow. It was a mob mentality. And if you want to look at it, say, well, the hippies were 50 years ago, what can they do now? Okay, you got Bill and Hillary Clinton, major league criminals, corrupt as hell. People will say, oh, they weren't really hippies. I said, well, that's right, they were yippies. If you want another example, how about Stephen Paddock, the guy who killed 50 people at Las Vegas? Right age period, and he killed those people at a country and western music festival because he perceived them as conservative and middle class, which he was not, but he was very, very rich. And it's a class warfare thing. And when you look at what Marxists believe, they will tell you the first priority is class warfare. This is what it's about. It's not about helping the poor, it's about keeping them down. These people and their rotten kids still continue on to this day. But it has to come to an end. And indeed we are seeing this. Now with, as I call this series post-Gnosticism, that is because it is based on the likes of ancient Gnostics and neo-Gnostics. So Gnostics viewed the material world as a prison, and that includes our own bodies. So what we have now are teachers telling the kids they teach that if you're a boy and you think you're a girl, then you're a girl, so cut your dick off. Tell your parents to do it. If they don't do it, it's child abuse. And we still have the mob mentality from the 60s, which has transferred over to now, the present day. Go with the flow, ride the peace train, yay. We're still getting the same sort of mentality, and it's spreading. And as with the hippies and the yippies, only a handful of people lead, and everyone else just, for some unknown reason, follows. Groupthink, herdthink. So, and what we saw result from the 60s was the redefinition of God, the redefinition of Jesus Christ, the adoption of Hinduism and other beliefs such as Buddhism, which are not really compatible at all with the Abrahamic faiths. So this is what we have now, is the end result of that. So what I will be doing, and one other thing that I want to point out. So you say the hippie period was from early 60s to early 70s, and yet in Denmark child pornography was legal in 69 till 79. It was only the lack of commercial success which shut it down. So hippies and yippies, this is the sort of stuff they are aiming for. And this war did not end with the fall of Saigon. No, it's still continuing. So it's an intergenerational war. Pass on to the children what you have failed to do so far and make it their responsibility. So everyone on this earth at this time is involved in this. You are a combatant, whether you like it or not, and if you don't fight, you're a victim, which is now celebrated. So my next clip, I'm going to examine what we can actually do about it. Look, anyone can say the things I've said, but until we take decisive action, which is all or nothing, and which you yourself will put your sanity and indeed your life at risk, then talking about it doesn't really mean anything. So, peace out.